Let's start disassembling the LG E960. Apply the pin to the SIM eject hole on the battery cover and separate the SIM tray. Use the pin provided for SIM tray disassembly. Use a star-type screwdriver to disassemble two star-type screws of the 4.5mm black variety. Slide a spatula beside the left side key volume, pull up the battery cover. Separate all the corners of the battery cover by turning it counterclockwise. If the battery cover gets lifted without having all the corners disassembled, take care the hook gets cracked. Beware of a spatula damaging the thin spokes of the volume key, SIM tray, and power key. Push the side key and power key inward and separate them. Undo 9 screws of the 4mm black variety. Remove the rear cover. Take care not to damage the PCB C-clip while separating the rear cover. Use a pin set to lift the motor's FPCB bottom and remove the motor. Use a pin set to unhook the receiver cap top and remove the receiver cap. Use a pin set to separate the receiver. Undo 2 screws of the 1.4mm black variety from the battery connector. Use a pin set to remove the RF cable connector. Remove the LCD connector, the touch connector, the ear jack connector, and the lower FPCB connector from the PCB. Remove the PCB from the front. Separate the VT camera. Use a pin set to lift the left and the bottom of the shield can and remove it. Remove the 8-megapixel camera. Use a pin set to lift the shield can at one side and remove the shield can. Separate the pad flash. Use a pin set to separate the RF cable insulator. Lift the RF cable and apply a spatula to the right side of the battery. Move the spatula a few times and remove the battery. Here, be careful not to bend or tear the battery. Separate two antenna screws, 3.5mm silver variety. Use a pin set to unhook the center and remove the main antenna. Remove the main mic cap. Remove the RF cable connector. Separate two pad FPCBs. Remove the tape from both sides of the FPCB and the longer side. Hold the longer side of the FPCB and lift it to separate the lower FPCB. Apply a pin set to the left side of the ear jack FPCB and separate the ear jack FPCB. Remove the sensor cap with a pin set. Use a pin set to remove the mic cap. Use a pin set to remove the side key contact button and the power key contact button. That's all for the LG E960 disassembly. Let's start assembling the LG E960. Fit the top mic cap in the cap place. Make sure the bulging part of the cap faces up. Fit the side key contact button and the power key contact button. Make sure the contact button's pins face down. Fit the sensor cap with its bulging part going in between the crack on the ear jack FPCB. Fit the lower FPCB I/O connector to the front. Take care not to break the I/O connector and the parts on the rear side. Fit two pad FPCBs to the guideline. Fit the RF cable with its golden band part facing down. Fit the golden band to the rib. Bend the cable to the left and fit in the clip. Fit the main mic cap with its bulging part facing down. Fit the main antenna to the front bottom. Fit the battery in its place, starting from the lower left part. Bend the RF cable so that it won't interfere with the battery. Fit the RF cable connector with its wide side meeting the battery center. Bend the narrow side and fit the RF cable. Fit the pad flash starting from the flash border. Fit the shield can to the shape. Make sure the corner fits well. Take care not to press the center of the shield can. Fit the 8-megapixel camera. Fit the shield can to its shape. Fit the VT camera. Fit the car jack FPCB to the front. Press the sensor part to make it fit well. Bend the connectors backward and fit them in the main PCB. Take care not to have the SIM sockets tray get stuck in the front. Fit the 8 mega camera in the guide rib. Fit the receiver to the receiver cap. Fit the assembled receiver cap to the rear. Make sure the receiver's FPCB hole fits well to the guided rib on the rear. Fit the motor FPCB in between the guide rib on the rear. Fit the battery connector, the LCD connector, the touch connector, the ear jack connector, the lower FPCB connector, and the RF connector to the main PCB. Make sure the RF connector won't sit on the battery. Fit the front first to the lower end of the rear cover. Hook up one spot at the bottom and two at the top on the rear cover. Take care not to damage the C-clips on the main PCB. Fit 2 screws of the 3.5mm silver variety to the main antenna. Fit 2 screws of the 1.4mm black variety to the battery connector. Fit 9 screws of the 4mm black variety to the rear cover. Fit the power and side keys to the guide rib. First, fit the rib below the power key on the battery cover. Fix the battery cover clockwise. Fix 2 start type screws, 4.5mm black, at the bottom of the phone. Fit the SIM socket with its fitting part facing the front. Press the power key at the right top for a long time and check if it is turned on properly. That's all for the LG 960 assembly.